Jay Pendergast.
Here.
And Dwight Selby, who is also out. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Jill. Is anyone here for public participation? Okay. We will move on to approval of the minutes from September 25th, 2024. Has everyone had the opportunity to read them? Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion is minutes will be filed as. Okay. Motions will be filed as written. Okay, on to new business. Dan?
Yes, ma'am. All right, so first thing here on new business is scope change for the city of Daytona Beach, Breakers Park. This grant was in 2005 for $500,000 for the Main Street Park Phase 2 project, which is now considered Breakers Park. Originally, this grant was intended to fund construction of restrooms, environmental education center, picnic shelters, playground, volleyball court, benches. And then in 2006, the city requested a change in project scope, which was approved, which replaced the playground with the splash pad. Now they are asking to replace the splash pad that's in place and replace it with a playground. All right. The city plans to invest an additional $700,000 into this project, and the plan is for it to be complete within 9 to 12 months.
Do we have anyone from the city here?
Yes, Beth Gibson is here. She's the city grant manager, if there are questions about the project.
Does anyone have any questions? No?
I'm just gonna, now, so we originally had the playground, then we went to the splash pad. Now we're going to the playground. And I'm familiar with the area, and I'm trying to think of who uses that currently, and it's going to be handicap accessible and all that. Just a little more explanation. Just, I'm familiar with the area, and I know that it's got a lot of traffic, and how do we think this is going to work?
Thank you. Beth Gibson, Grant Manager, City of Daytona Beach. Also with me today is Drew Driscoll, Deputy City Manager and Fire Chief, and David Waller, Public Works Director. So you can definitely answer in more detail if there's anything you want to know I don't cover.
Just kind of generally, you know.
Well, I think it's really kind of awesome in a way because it seems like you're getting both things, you know, on the site. It's been almost 20 years, I guess, that that the splash pad has been there, and it's just, you know, you all are probably familiar with splash pads. They're very difficult to maintain, very expensive, and this one's on a beach practically. So you can imagine the sand and all of that constantly is filling up the drains and the mechanisms and all that. So it's been an issue, and you know, it has to be closed frequently for maintenance and those sorts of things. I think there's also been a concern about safety and not getting, you know, a lot of children there. More being used for like showers for homeless and that sort of thing. So I think the intent is to have a playground where, you know, the children can really use it and have some you know, really cool ideas about what could be there on the beach, and have something maybe even beach themed, or, you know, I don't know ultimately, but to have it be more for, you know, the kids that maybe aren't in the water or younger or can't swim, or, you know, the parents are more up in the Breakers Park.
And will the playground equipment, as I said, be handicap accessible, and will it be designed for non-sleeping?
I mean, I think that's pretty much standard for the city, but David, do you have anything else to say, or?
Good morning, David Waller with City of Daytona Beach. You know, our playgrounds in general that we install, we strive to find playground equipment that doesn't have enclosed spaces that are see-through at all times, and we'll obviously strive for that at Breakers Park as well. We'll also look for a product that is, you know, is corrosion resistant. We're looking into some manufacturers that have a wood type product that'll be a little more resilient because of the coastal impact there. We had another playground farther down the boardwalk that the lifespan on the beach side for playgrounds is pretty short. So we'll look for a product that is appropriate for the location. And you know, like Ed Beth had said, you know, kind of the goal is to get the park back to the intended user group. The splash pad, unfortunately, is not used by the target audience for our park, and expectation is a playground may be a better fit. We redid all the pump equipment about 9 years ago. The splash pad is coming around again on that life cycle. We'd rather spend our funds on something, try something different, I guess is kind of that's what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Stephanie? I did have a question, and it was to do with the use of who was actually using the park. And I noticed that there were showers there now, and wondered if there had been a homeless problem in that area. The park that used to be adjacent to the public library in the city of Daytona was no longer used by any children at all, and that seems to be a problem in some of those areas, that the children are actually not using the facility. And I did notice you have a pretty robust marketing plan. So are those showers going to stay there? They're adjacent?
Well, the showers that are adjacent to the splash pad are there because of state health code requirements to have a shower at a public swimming pool. So the showers immediately there will be removed. We do have another shower set that is closer to the beach access point that's intended to allow people to rinse. I think the expectation is to probably leave that in place. We have a couple of those shower systems down our public beach areas along the boardwalk, but the one closest to the playground, which is tied to the splash pad, would be removed.
So hopefully the homeless won't convene there.
Yeah, and if we could keep the rinsing of surfboards and feet and the general showering not at the playground. And, you know, right now that's really what the splash pad has turned into, is a spot for people to rinse off. It's easier than going to the shower, and it's very hard on our equipment. It's just, splash pads are phenomenal community assets, and unfortunately for us, this particular location hasn't shown to be that great for the intended audience.
Anyone else? Pat?
Well, if I read this correctly, this is just a change of use. You're not requesting any additional funding? Or did I miss that?
No, that is correct. Yes, it's not a funding request. This is just a request to allow us to change the amenity that is on site.
Okay, thank you.
Pat?
There. Okay, that was one of my questions as well. But Daniel, didn't we change the project length? This is a 40-year project, and didn't we go back to 20 years now?
For the new iteration
For the
of the
new-
program,
yeah.
restricted covenant is 20 years.
And when did we change that? How long ago?
That would have been in 2020 that
2020.
started.
Okay,
Yep.
so this falls under the old program, but the new program, they get a 20-year discount pretty much, right?
The new program would be 20.
Okay.
Anything prior to that could
Yeah,
be 20,
okay.
30, or 40, depending on the grant.
Yeah, I thought it was 40. The only problem I have with this, and I certainly understand, changing things around, and the fact that we're not being asked to pay anything there is good. But it says the project is still conceptual, and so I wonder, is it premature without having plans in front of us that are detailed? So that's something I'm asking. I guess I'm wondering why it's come to us when the plans are conceptual.
Yeah,
and
I
not
was just going to
finalized.
say the city wasn't obviously going to go through any kind of detailed plans without
Yes,
knowing
they
that it
could.
was
Okay,
allowed. And
okay.
we have 3 grants on this property, so you're the 3rd one. So we kind of had, we were trying to coordinate them all, make sure everybody said yes before
Okay.
too much. But I think we are planning to move forward quickly. And, if you want to know more about the timeline, David can tell you more about that.
Okay, thank you. That's it. That's it for me.
I could just speak from a timeline perspective. Once we have, we're greenlit, this is allowable on the parcel, then we'll engage our different vendors, and we'll work on some different options that can be reviewed through our commission, and because it'll all have to run
Would
through
you
them.
just keep us posted with those plans when they're finalized, so we see what it is that we've...
Absolutely. Yeah,
Thank
we'll share them back through Beth, and she can share them with you guys. That'd be great.
Are there any other questions?
No?
Do I hear a motion to
Motion
approve
to
the change?
approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
All right, on to number 2 here, new business. It is the Critical Historic Acquisition and/or Stabilization Grant, which is for the City of Daytona Beach Main Street Coquina Arch project. The request for this project is $540,349.50, which is also the total cash match, 1-to-1. The Main Street Coquina Arch was constructed in 1929 and is a contributing structure in the Surfside National Historic District. This grant application seeks emergency funding for structural repairs as the nearly 100-year-old arch is facing significant deterioration and poses a public safety risk. The application is considered incomplete and has several deficiencies that must be addressed. The City of Daytona Beach plans to pay the debt to the county by the county council day as stated in the ECHO guidebook. The city also has representatives here today to discuss the construction timeline of the project, the plan for the long-term maintenance, and the missing qualifications for the contractor and architect. ECHO staff supports this application, and the project will meet the county council's approved requirements for critical historic acquisition and/or stabilization grant funding if these issues are resolved. And they are here to answer any questions you may have about the project.
Okay. Someone want to come up and answer some of our questions?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the general contractor, and they meet the requirements. Is that going to happen?
We have a list of projects that they've done in the last 5 years that we feel are historic in nature, and happy to go down that list with you. We just got it this morning.
Yeah, and we did forward it to ECHO. They have it as well, but within the last 5 years, they completed Orange City utility office renovations at 426 South Volusia Avenue. The architect was CPH Lambert. The amount was 1.1 million, and it was completed November 15th, or will be completed, I guess, November 15th, 2024. Peninsula Club renovations, 415 South Peninsula Drive in Daytona Beach. Brent Cohen, architect, $432,518, September 10th, 2022. Deborah Stevens, historical residence at 1412 Halifax Avenue in Daytona Beach, BFY Architects. And the amount was $966,540, and it's to be completed February 1st, 2025.
Does anyone have any questions? Pat?
Yeah, I'm a little confused, and I'll direct it to the staff. Again, this project seems like it's not yet ready to come to ECHO if we don't have the plans in place. So I love historical projects, and I want to support this, especially that is a beautiful feature that needs to be supported. But I have nothing in my book that gives me any information about the project, about why it's been delayed as far as paperwork. So that's what I'm asking. Where is, I'm hearing this stuff, but where is backup material on this?
So the City of Daytona Beach submitted this to us this morning. So we just got this information as to who we knew Paul Culver was the construction company that they plan to use, but we just got the documentation showing the last 5 projects that they've done in the last 10 years. We just got that today.
I'll jump in here too. As Beth, Paul Culver has shared some information with Beth and the team, and they have shared with us. We will certainly vet that. But the staff's thought was it is coquina. There are no drawings for it. It was built in the 1920s. So I'll look to Jay for his advice here, but it's more like a playground to us. It's more like a conceptual plan. It's stacking coquina, stucco. I mean, would there be plans for something like that, Jay? Or
Well, yes, there would be.
We have construction.
This is not just coquina rocks. If you look at the photographs that we received online that are not here, you can see there's all kinds of shapes of corbels and different details to this. So it's actually cut and, formed coquina. And, on one hand, I'm, of course, totally into historic preservation and all of that. This, of course, looks like our classical demolition by neglect. The photos that we received, it really looked like nothing's been done to this for 100 years. And actually, you can see a pretty good shot of it in the playground picture with the splash pad. That's the most visual we have to go by. And one of my comments, too, is, can't this aesthetically look better? On the photos that I saw earlier, you have some kind of white stucco buttress holding things up, and it really looks like it's been neglected aesthetically and physically forever. So it's, and again, to Pat's point, there's absolutely zero plans for renovation, restoration, and for historic restoration, your plans are usually more detailed.
I can tell you how this started and what we've done to date, and give you an idea of kind of, I feel like some of the blanks may get filled in. We did an inspection on the facility, and we had identified the corbels, I'll call them. I don't know what the real term is. The big round turrets kind of on the corner. Sorry, you having trouble hearing me? The corbels, or the turret-looking structures on the corners of the structure, had started to separate from the archway, and so our engineers obviously were quite concerned about that, and we hired we solicited assistance from several different contractors. Paul Culver Construction was the one who was willing to come out and try to address our issues. And in that process, where they identified in the column, we identified a large crack on the my southwest corner, near where the sidewalk goes under the small arch. And at that point, we got Grafe, the structural engineers, involved, because it looked like it was getting to be a bigger issue than what we had anticipated. And so we did some selective demo through Culver's Crews, which is really, it's Daytona Stone, and Daytona Stone, I think is the name of the company, is a mason that they're using. And to get Grafe a chance to look at structurally what's going on to cause this cracking, and it looked like settlement on that southeastern corner or southwestern corner. And what we found was what was causing the corbels to come loose is there's an old electrical system that was in the arch that had lighting up on top. There was substantially more structure on top of those corbels when it was originally built, and had light fixtures at the top. And there's some metal conduits that run through the original arch that are because of the intrusion of salt air and moisture they're expanding, because it's a steel conduit. And you could actually follow where that conduit went through the arch once we got the scaffolding up, and see where it was pressing the stone away. It was pushing those corbels off that initially alerted us to the problem. And then we get into the columns, and there was rebar in the columns and a steel beam that went between column to column, and the arch has basically just stacked stone around this steel beam. And the beam and particularly the rebar essentially were gone. Once we got back there to do that, once we did the selective demo, there was no steel there. So it was being held up by, the virtues of an arch, right? It's pretty cool that it actually stood up on its own, but structurally it's not safe, something we want to put pedestrians and vehicles through anymore. So Grafe put together a structural solution for us, which is essentially a poured concrete arch with a fiberglass rebar embedded in it, so we don't repeat this problem again 90 plus years from now. And then Daytona Stone is cutting coquina to match what was there. They've taken detailed measurements and they're replicating with natural coquina stone all of the architectural features of the arch, and are going to place stone back on top of what is now going to be a concrete base instead of stacked stone. And visually, it'll look the same as it does, except with new coquina. As much of the existing arch as we can. The stairs on the north and south side will all stay in place, and as much as we can, much as will stand. Our concern is as we start to pull apart the parts that are structurally compromised, that we may lose a little more than we had hoped for, but we're prepared to build back so that visually looks the same as it did prior to our work beginning with new stone.
Thanks for the explanation.
So you're essentially going to remove and replace the arch.
The portion that you drive under, yes, that arch will come out. That comes down. That's the bridge in between that was heavily reworked in 2004, 2005-ish. Of course, stays in place because it's new, and then most of it comes down and then gets put back.
In the photos that I saw earlier, there were these white concrete columns under the arch that didn't match anything. That must have been some kind of retro repair.
I agree. I don't know when that was done.
I mean, it would be nice to see this put back looking aesthetically pleasing, because right now it's really a shame to see something that started out very pretty look like it does.
There's some unusual features underneath of it that before my time, I don't know how they got there. I don't disagree. And there's a section of wall that's more of like a faux rock that's painted, I think it's blue right now. It's some unusual things there that have happened over the last 100 years or 90 years.
Well, and that's where if we had some drawings that would show your intent on the aesthetics of what this will look like. I mean, we're talking about spending $1 million, which I don't want to sound like a hillbilly, but that's a lot of money.
It is. Our intent now with the plan that we have is that it'll be back in the same format that it was, a year ago. We're not going back 90 whatever years.
I think I know the city years ago redid the watchtower, the clock tower, and it was an admirable job. And I kind of agree with Jay. That white column, if you're going to do the work, let's do it right. Okay, that's a beautiful feature, and it is historic, and it looked to me like, I know you're not planning to just put mortar in behind to hold the rocks there. I got it. But it seems like if you peel the coquina off and you get new coquina, it ought to be rebuilt like the original and not have some eyesores that were put in the last few years as patchwork. I really believe to spend $1 million or what have you, it really needs to honor the arch that it is. Okay, I think of the Tarragona Arch, I think of the bandshell, and I think of the clock tower. We've got some significant pieces of work that the WPA did in Daytona Beach that mark us for who we are. And I think that when we see the final plans, I really would like to see that is our goal, not to go back to where we were a year or two before.
Stephanie?
Thank you. I actually have several questions. One is, this is an emergency grant, and it looks like in looking at the repairs and the maintenance that have taken place over many, many years, that maybe wasn't taking place, has created this emergency. It looks like the original inspection was done back in January, which noted all of the deficiencies, and I'm wondering why you didn't apply for a regular grant at that time, knowing what was happening. They would be in the same grant cycle as is now.
From a time perspective, when we first identified the problem, we didn't anticipate it being as big as it was. We had originally had a scope of about $200,000 worth of work. We thought was going to resolve our issues, and the deeper we got into it, we were wrong, and so it has ballooned from there to where we are now. And from for the perspective of bringing it back to what it was, originally, 90 years ago, I mean, I know we made a decision at the staff level to try to control the project from a cost perspective, and there is a significant amount of work that could be done to bring it. I mean, lots of pieces are missing. I mean, if you look at the pictures that we had from, 50 years ago or so, we don't have any real original pictures. We have some that are much more reflective of what it used to look like. There's a lot of pieces that have been removed over the years, probably for similar reasons. And there is more work that could be done. We're just trying to compact the work down to something that we were trying to manage from a financial perspective.
Well, with the lack of a maintenance plan moving forward, what's going to keep that from happening again? I didn't see much of a detail in the maintenance plan, and as Mr. Pendergrass said, it's a lot of money, but even more importantly, this is an important structure to everyone in Daytona Beach, and I believe through the pages that you submitted, it is registered on the National Historical Registry. I would be surprised if it qualifies right now in its current state. What's going to make it, how will the maintenance be different this time around?
We do regular maintenance on all of our facilities. This is just one of our facilities. The complex altogether along the boardwalk includes the band shell and the clock tower and then of course the amenities at Breakers Park are all managed through our facility maintenance department. We do regular checks and inspections on our facilities. I don't know that this is something that is a case of deferred maintenance. We did a significant amount of work 2004, so 20 years ago on the walkway portions, and the issues that have created this need are concealed within the stone, and there's not really work for us to do to that. I mean, we can't do maintenance on the rebar, we can't do maintenance on the structural steel. I think it's pretty remarkable that the construction methods that they did use have held as well as they have for as long as they have. I mean, steel. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah,
I mean, all of those facilities that were built, the clock tower and the band shell, are remarkable structures that were built in without in a time without the engineering knowledge that is used today and the materials that we use today. The fact that they're still here and they're phenomenal pieces of our community, and this really is an important piece for us.
The second part is, I know that the guidelines for restoration must follow the Secretary of the Interior and the Historical Preservation guidelines. I don't see a recommendation I did see a recommendation that was made by Graf and also stated again by, I believe it was Kimberly Reading, who's the Historical Preservation Officer, that a historical preservation architect should be consulted throughout this process. Is that going to be done?
It's not something we've done as of yet. We started this as a structural concern, but we can certainly bring an architect on board if that's something that is important to the board.
I think that is potentially one of the most important things in preserving this arch, is having someone that understands the historical preservation, and then also to ensure that it remains on the National Registry. In fact, I'm not sure that the repairs that will be done, I think in order to remain on the registry, it has to be certified by a historical architect, and I think that's an important part of the repair work. And so I'm asking that question, if that I believe that's a requirement, so I think it has to be done.
I'm not familiar with those requirements. We have used a historical architect on a couple the other facilities we did on the boardwalk. They started a little differently. This one we're kind of working backwards. Those were planned repairs. This one is an unexpected repair. But, you know, and particularly if we're going to touch things that have been added over the years, that you alluded to, that we would need architectural support for that. It's not something our maintenance department is up for.
I know that today we're not making action, but we may make a recommendation. Would it be appropriate for us to have that requirement as part of our recommendation moving forward? Because I thought, Stephanie, your point is so valid.
We have no objection to that if that's the recommendation of the board.
I think that's something as a committee and staff that we definitely need to consider, because we don't want to be back here in another 20 years and find that the repairs that were made were not historically accurate, and therefore it's been removed from the list. I think it's too important, and if we're taking this stage and investing all of this money, that we need to have that, I believe, as part of the recommendation that a historical preservation architect must be consulted for the project.
Just want to say that it's an iconic structure, something that I probably photographed 100 times, walked over 1,000 times. I hate to see it patchworked. I agree 100% with Stephanie with her comments. We need to keep it on the historical list. So let's go forward with that.
Yeah, the amount of pictures that are taken there is stunning.
By the way, I know a lot more about that structure than I've ever known after reading the grant.
Good.
Thank
Good. You're welcome.
Yeah, I came in here fully. I'm getting spam phone calls like crazy. I came in here fully supportive of this project. I think, but the more I'm listening, the more concerns that I have, and especially on the issue of the findings. This it meets the findings, absolutely, but it feels like I don't have enough information right here, and I'm not getting it talking to you all. It says right here, the operational plan included in the application is vague and essentially maintains the status quo, which, to Stephanie's comment, isn't you're right. You are absolutely right on that. We need to put that into an emotion that we make. And the fact that there is not a timeline concerns me. And if I understand, it has to be 2 years, correct, according to your overview?
Yes, 2 years.
So what happens without us having any kind of planning document to hold the city accountable? I mean, if we require a historic architect, does that go to the council with that recommendation? Or does it go to the council with, well, the ECHO committee said they thought we should do this?
Whatever motion you guys make today to recommend, if you guys add that in, that will be sent to county council.
Okay, thank you.
Our current plan is, as it is now, we anticipate work to take about 9 months. If we're going to engage with an architect, we'll have a little lag while we go through that process, which likely could improve the project. And then if there's an additional work, there may be a little bit additional time.
I guess what concerns me is I'm not getting a sense from you all that you realize how significant historically this is as far as the repair of it. I'm not hearing that, so that concerns me.
Is there a way to seal the coquina?
Not that I'm
You don't want
aware
to.
of. No.
You don't want to.
Part of its nature is that porosity with it. That's why any structural items we're recommending go back will be a fiberglass rebar product, so that, because it does impermeate the concrete and the coquina is all porous product. So as a preventative measure, that's just part of our recommendation is going back.
Are there any other questions? Jay?
Well, with the coquina, you're going to replace the coquina? Like, when you remove, most of the time coquina is kind of a veneer anyway, but those historic pieces, what's going to happen to those? Those are all going to have to be removed. So is the intent to remove and replace, or I mean, I just don't really think you got. I know this is an emergency, but I don't think you're even ready for an emergency. To be perfectly honest with you, I mean,
It feels like
I
just
was
a general
expecting some
engineering
kind
project.
of visual,
Yeah.
Pictures, maps, history, and I'm just not seeing that, and I'm seeing zero background here, and I'm just having a lot of trouble with this, and I'm really passionate about Florida history and architecture and all of that, and I'm really struggling with this. I just don't think you're even ready for an emergency grant, personally.
Can I-
I'm looking at Jay, and I'll bet you we've both tackled projects that look like we could tackle it this way. And once you get started, if you just cover it up with Band-Aids, you'll be back again. And this is too important, too iconic a piece to do that. I believe that once you get the structural piece and a historic architect involved, you're going to find that you're taking the whole thing apart, putting it back together again properly. And I agree, it's an emergency. I can almost see, like, I'm thinking Notre Dame with a mesh on the outside to keep the stones from falling while you design this, okay? But there's a lot of work to be done yet.
And are people walking across this bridge right now?
No, it's closed.
It's closed. So is there any kind of temporary access to the boardwalk while this is going on? This is going to take a couple of years.
Currently the pedestrians walk back to the west, and they go down Ocean Avenue and back up through Breakers Park.
I'm just going to say that this, what I'm looking at, seems to me to be a regular public works project, not recognizing the historical significance of what you all, well, I mean, I can tell you from DeBerry Hall, a project that I was involved in, there's always something there that, and without having that person in place in the front end, before we even approve it, I have a problem with that. And I understand Mr. Burbaugh's point about this being significant, but I think that until there is a historic architect that's involved with this and has taken a look at it and planned how to do this, I'm not sure I can support the grant.
I think this is a very worthy project.
Me
It's
too.
worthy of ECHO funds. I think we value it. You heard that from this entire group. But before we engage in that, I think we need to know that you really know what you're about. I believe that that this is going to be deeper and it's much more important. But I believe that it merits ECHO funds, just not yet.
Well, and without any kind of backup, how do we know it's $1 million? You're asking us for a $500,000 match, and you have the match and all that. But without the drawings and planning, how do you know? This could turn into $2 or $3 million when you get into really doing something historically accurate and correct. And I'd hate to approve it and then come back and just see some overpass put in because there wasn't enough funding or planning. I just, again, I agree with Pat. Like, I'm passionate. I'm a third generation Floridian. I'm really passionate about our history, and I'm not feeling like it's being correctly respected here.
Any other comments?
Can I just make one comment? I was just reading through the Secretary of the Interior's guidance for, restoration, rehabilitation, preservation. There's 4 levels. But it does not, unless I'm mistaken and couldn't find it, but it does not specifically even address coquina. It does address masonry, brick, stucco, terracotta specifically. And it mostly addresses buildings. So it talks about, so there's not a lot of specific guidance for how you do a coquina structure because they're sort of unique. I mean, we have a number of them in Florida, but it is sort of unique. And it says, where it talks about masonry and that sort of thing, to not clean it unless it's absolutely necessary. So while it may look like it has been a badly maintained, public works project, I'm not sure that's the case. The best treatment of it is to not over clean it and that sort of thing, because the more you do it, the more it deteriorates it. So I just wanted to point that out, that you know, there are standards in there, but they're very sort of minor. There's not a lot of specifics in there about the coquina. And I think that's why the need to have stonemasons that deal with coquina, you know, the few that have built these structures and that are dying out and that maintain them. And it's my understanding we do have that person on this project, you know, that knows how to cut the stone, how to place the stone, how to carefully put it back. So I just, you know, understand your comments and appreciate them. I just wanted to make that point just as a point of clarification and information, you know, to you if that helps at all.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Do we have any motion? Guess not. So, perhaps,
We have a sense of urgency.
yeah.
We agree it's emergency. Get it together and bring it back.
I think that's probably the recommendation of all the committee members.
Do you want that in the form of a motion? That we support the project, but we require additional information before we, particularly with the historic architect, before we can commit county funds to this?
I think that's excellent.
Okay. Does anybody second that?
What we want is a set of plans going forward that respects the historic value and has a plan for historic preservation and architectural direction.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries.
So one of the things I'm planting the seed because I don't want Daytona to have to do all of the work, but likely this will be an exceptional grant when it comes back, based on what we're talking about. And we know how historic projects go. So just want to plant that seed with the committee to be prepared for that. I would hate to
think
see
we
them do all the work.
all want this to be successful. That's what we're trying to get to.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought the motion reflected that it was of value to us.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Yes, that's very clear I'm just planting the seed that it will be back as an exceptional grant possibly.
Right, and that's fine if it's an
Yeah.
exceptional grant. What we're concerned about is the integrity
Yep,
of this
I get it.
historic piece
I get it.
and seeing that restored as opposed to just budgetary, oh, we only have X amount of dollars, so this is what you get, you know?
Yes, sir.
We want that historic.
I get it. I'm
arch.
not disputing what you're saying. I get it and I hear you. I'm just yes. I'm not
No,
arguing with you at
we
all.
want to say yes, however.
Yeah.
I get it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to see you back with plans.
there's a real enthusiasm.
Yes. Okay. I could
All
go
right,
on.
item 3 on new business today is the 2024-2025 Echo calendar that was submitted to you guys. I do have one correction to the calendar. It's Thursday, July 10th, not Thursday, July 12th. Other than that, all the other dates on the calendar,
So we don't meet again until after the new year.
that's
according to this
correct.
calendar. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so our technical applications would be due in November for this upcoming cycle. Final submittal would be due in December, and then we would run into our first meeting on Wednesday, January 15th of 25.
All right. Staff comments? Staff
We'll
comments?
need just a motion to approve the calendar.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'm
Second.
sorry, Sabrina, it's like the motion needs to include the change to the 10th.
Correct.
I'll make that motion with the amended date.
And Pat Northey, you second the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Staff comments.
All right, staff comments. So I'll start with what we discussed at the last meeting was you guys wanted some more information on the Echo strategic plan. So I think I got some good news for you here today to discuss the new strategy that staff has come up with to move forward with the strategic plan. So the plan now is to take task 1 of the initial strategic plan, and it'll go out for an RFQ through purchasing, which we've actually submitted this past week to reach out to see if we can get some bids on task 1 only for our strategic plan. And task 1 was strategic planning for the ECHO projects, and the deliverable for that plan was a long-range vision and implementation plan to guide ECHO's development and resource allocation through 2040. So we've put that out. It should go through purchasing intake, and we should have it out for bid by the end of November.
Do we know that purchasing reviewed what's happening in other communities in Florida to see what firms might be appropriate so that the RFQ is sent specifically to firms to be solicited?
Correct. And we also, if you guys have any that you guys want to suggest to us, we can reach out to purchasing and have them reach out to those specific counties or other places that have done this in the past.
So you do have a list of firms that are prospects?
We do.
Yes,
Thank you.
we're confident we will find someone for task 1.
Very good.
All right, so the second part of the strategic plan was to analyze the grant process and recommend process improvements moving forward. The deliverable for this task would be a recommended modified process for applicants and staff that is informed by the consultant's experience and stakeholder feedback. So we are in the process of working with a vendor now that is hoping to get on contract with us for this specific piece for task 2. And then for task 3, to improve marketing moving forward, we have a continuing contract with Aqua Marketing through the county now that we plan on using. We've reached out to them last week, so we're waiting for them to deliver a scope and a fee associated with that scope, and then we can move forward and create a task assignment. So we've now broken the strategic plan into 3 separate items moving forward.
We've separated them into 3 separate tasks. The way the county procurement process works is we have continuing contractors that we can use through task assignments. And so for number 2 and 3, that's what our goal is. So we'll use Aqua Marketing for number 3. I think the feedback we got from folks was you're asking for a firm with 3 different skill sets to do one project. And we heard that, and so we broke it into 3. It's the same scope that this committee has looked at multiple times. We're confident that we have someone for task 1. Task 2 is very close, I would say, is we had our final presentation yesterday from the vendor, but it is a complete grant management software from the very beginning of application. Everyone will have a login. It's what the state DEP uses. It's a Salesforce product, and it's a complete grant management program. So we will not have 150 notebooks up on the second floor anymore associated with the grants, but it will automate everything. The annual reports, there will be a dashboard. You all will have logins to look at the project. It will be real-time information transferred to our dashboard as well. So it will be a completely integrated program is the goal. Now, does that solve some of our process issues? Or, as I've said before, I get feedback all of the time from our main primary grant writers that it's very, very difficult to write an ECHO grant. So we're going to convene a focus group of some folks, including you, to see what is really necessary. One of the things that we've went to is, when we're talking about the budget, is being more 10,000 foot view rather than this is for electrical sockets, because if you change that line, then we've got to come to council and we've got to come here. So we're making tweaks around the edges that staff can do to make it a more friendly process, I would say. My observation is that just like we do after every 2 years, we look at the process and we add rules, but we never take any away. So if you continue adding to the plate, you should be taking stuff away. That's not that important anymore. So we'll come to you with a report from that focus group when we convene it with some recommendations, but we plan to hopefully make that part of our recommendations to council in the next spring.
Can I ask a question about funding? Could the council only allowed, what, 50,000?
75.
75.
They did
Yep.
allow 75, okay. So can we do all this within that framework?
So
By
the
doing the task assignments, have we already spent that money and we're just using them?
yeah, it will fund the task assignments.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I've been pretty vocal about task number 2 and my frustration in that the grant application would come before us incomplete. And was that because the grant was too hard, as maybe some suggested, or what, why was that happening? But I felt it was putting us as committee members in a difficult situation, just as this morning. We're looking at this emergency grant and it's not really ready. And so it puts us in a difficult position. So I believe you said it's Salesforce, and that's the online portal that would be the grant. I think as important as that, which I think it sounds wonderful. I've completed many online grants through the state and national processes, is the clarification for the applicant. And I think that that's going to be in the process that you could get from the focus group. I think we also need to look very closely at other communities that are doing this very thing successfully. And is that part of that focus group?
We can definitely make it a part of the focus group, yes.
I mean, I think that, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can look at things that are working quite well in other Florida communities that seem to have streamlined the process and identifying municipalities as opposed to small nonprofit cafes and coffee shops, because there's a difference. We're looking at this exceptional status grant. Well, the cost of materials is going to make a lot of things exceptional that maybe aren't really exceptional. That's just the cost of materials. And so I think that there's a lot of the format and structure that needs to be considered in this. And I'd like to think that we as committee members will be included in part of that, but just in moving forward to utilize some of the experience of other governments that have issued this type of grant.
I just want to say that I'm pleased that we're moving forward. I will continue to look for ways that we can handle those large projects and make sure, as we did today, encourage. This is an exciting project. It's not quite ready for us yet, but I want to make sure that we have a way to relay that and to build that expectation so that some projects take longer term planning and funding, and I want to be in a position that we can do that. So thank you for taking this forward, taking the tasks apart, and getting started. So.
Okay, next in your notebooks, you've been provided the Q3 reports. They came into us October 15th, so we wanted to provide them to you so that way you guys had them. The next report would be for Q4, and we would get that January 15th, so we present that to you at the January 30th meeting.
So the bold ones, Daniel, are the ones who
Yep.
closed
So the
out
bold
far?
projects are complete. And then the projects that are on the bottom, the 5 that have the asterisks, those were projects that just got approved for the July 16th, 2024 DCE updated plan. So that's why you do not see a second quarter report, because they were approved in the third quarter.
Can I ask, make a recommendation for the future?
Yes, ma'am.
Could we just, the ones that are DCE projects, just, parenthesize them on the list? Just.
Okay.
Just so.
So just
visually.
DCE parentheses
Yeah,
around
just-
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm looking at this and, okay, there's a lot of environmental management, resource stewardship, parks and recreation, and mixed in with them are the projects that have come to us through a regular traditional process. So I guess I'm trying to
How about we
follow.
put one on one side and the other on the other side?
Yeah.
I was going to
yeah,
say, we could
yeah.
separate them out. We'll give you the regular, standard, and exceptional grants, and then put DCEs on a separate sheet.
It hasn't come before us yet. Are you going to DCE that? The motocross facility? Out of
It
DCE?
was approved. It was reviewed by this committee. It had 3.5 million in it.
I don't remember that.
We didn't approve it.
That is correct. You just reviewed the DC.
Yeah, we didn't.
The DCE is not in there because it's tentatively October 1st of this past budget year. So you won't see a report on that until the following quarter.
That was last meeting, correct, when we had that before us and we were told we weren't going to vote on it.
It was just reviewing, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the meeting before last.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
couple meetings ago.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Other questions about any of the projects?
I did. Do we have an update on the New Smyrna Beach skate park and the Seville Historic School? They look like they've not made a lot of progress. Well, the skate park, if I'm reading correctly, has not made any.
All right,
It
so for
looks
the
like the
skate,
design's complete since the last quarter.
Yeah.
Is that-
there's
so-
there's been some movement as the skate park. The contractor has been chosen, and they've had 2 community stakeholder meetings, and the design has been finalized for that project, for the skate park. For Seville, I know that we issued them a notice to proceed with their construction, so they have started some of the construction for that project.
And their design is complete. So they didn't have any design complete last quarter, it looks like. In this quarter, it's 100% complete. So
Thank you.
you guys lit the fire under these applicants. Thank you. I think the council did too.
And us as staff, we were talking to the ones that are on this list regularly to see where they're at. And, once they send in their report, we reach out and kind of try to guide them to the finish line, per se.
And the Ormond Beach Performing Arts, after they had their problems, that's not part of art. I see they're complete, and they're under repair now, but that's not anything to do with us.
Well, it is an ECHO grant. They're on the list here as completed. We're waiting for them to reopen. Once they reopen in November is the plan. We would go out and do a final site visit, and then we would mark them off as being firmly completed.
You can always ask about any ECHO project. We'll be happy to, get an update or provide information to committee members. We get that often.
Any other questions?
All right, a few more things here. We have a ribbon cutting on October 27th, which is a Sunday at 2 o'clock at the Daytona Playhouse. And then we also have a ribbon cutting on Halloween, October 31st at 9 a.m. With the City of DeLand for the Alabama Greenway Extension Project.
Where would that actually be held?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a new one for me.
It's going to be right at the corner. It's going to be the corner of Minnesota and Garfield.
So there's a Stetson parking lot. If you guys remember, it's where those of you that were on the committee, it's where we met for the site visit. That there's a small kind of, is it a shell parking lot or it's paid parking lot on the corner there so you can park?
Okay, I must have missed that. Could you resend me that information?
Of course.
Thank you. And so are you saying that the Alabama Greenway is complete? Because I went by it the other day and didn't look complete to me.
It's all the way to 92.
Yeah,
Is it
yes.
the
As far as
I've-
they should have, what they
Okay,
submitted
I'm
to
going
us
to go
in this
drive it again
quarter,
because it
uh,
didn't look
they
complete.
said it was complete on
Okay.
the 15th of this month.
It looks good.
That's
yeah.
it. Not what I looked at. So,
There's another sidewalk project going on, I think, around the corner from the school. I'm not sure, but
I don't know. Could you send me the information
course.
on the
Mhm.
ribbon cutting?
And then lastly, I know you guys have asked about the Master Trails update. Tim couldn't make the last meeting, so we are going to add him into the January. So he'll give you a master trails plan on the amenities, the $500,000 that you guys requested. Will be at the next meeting. And that's all I have for staff comments today.
Any questions for anyone? For Dan? No? Advisory committee comments. Jay?
No comments.
Pat?
No comments.
Stephanie?
I just want to thank again the city of Daytona Beach. I understand, I know you put a lot of effort and work into this, and we really do want to see this historic archway brought back to its historical significance and then kept that way. So I do appreciate the time you've put in, and hope that you will bring that back. And also to staff for I know I personally have been very vocal about this application process, and I appreciate the time that you're putting into that. I think it's really important, not for the community, for you, and for us as committee members, to review this process. So thank you for that.
No comments.
I want to thank Daytona for coming. Come back to us. You know, we all see this as a worthwhile project. It probably will cost more than you anticipate, and we do want to see it done. Thank you, and thank you for staff. At that, meeting is adjourned.
Is there an outpatient plan? Yeah. So they kept her for like 2 more hours and gave her more food. Hey.
It usually does take forever. Oh, good. That, okay, so from June 25, and then what is? February 26th is the current target. Okay. God, I hope I live till that long.
If the other permits come in sooner than expected, start earlier. Right now, we're waiting on the city review, the state permits.
Okay.
The only thing we're gonna hold us up with bags.
Okay, that's great news. Really quickly on the Miami Corp hunting lease, I'm trying to understand what, and I guess I need to call Miss Danielle, yeah. Something's wrong there. I don't know what. I'm just telling you that people I'm talking to are very concerned about the increase in the feeding area, and I didn't get an answer on that. So they did offer to give me a tour, which I'm going to take because I'm not hearing good things anyway about them taking down trees and that kind of stuff. But I am still concerned about the email that came to me, surreptitiously, by the way. So I have put that in the mix, but I feel pretty good about where it came from. And I don't think that I get a real answer. So I sent that back to Danielle
how many times have
last
you or
night,
I
saying
started
don't think this was answered, my concern, okay? So just so you know.
Oh my God.
So it might come to you, yeah, I'm sorry, but it might. There's an issue with the feeding area, that they've expanded the feeding area, and I even sent the email to Clay Henderson, because Clay was originally involved in that stuff, and he's not sure that he understands exactly what we're looking for. So understand, I'm maybe on a wild goose chase here, but I need to. Yeah, they did. Okay. Which is my concern about ours, by the way. I haven't given up on that. My son said there is a good example in one of the other counties, and he's supposed to send me their policy on that, how to get the public on that property for hunting, which without having to go through a private club that doesn't advertise. That's the thing that concerns me. It feels very private, and But where? So what does that include? Where does that go? For the lease, but then how does the lease get managed? By they bid for a lease, and then they go out and get their friends. Yeah, but that's my concern, is they fill the members. It's not a public process. Yeah, I mean, they fill with their friends. So unless you're a friend of the leaseholder, you don't know about it. Because otherwise you would have to lease the entire, I mean, you could as an individual do that. But if you just wanted to be part of a hunt club, you couldn't because they don't advertise.